January of '04, the unemployment rate in Flint was actually 17%, but you have to take into consideration as well that when your unemployment runs out, you're no longer counted. I would say that we're probably close to at least 50%.
Iraq, Baghdad, I didn't know anything of those things. And we were in the hallway in the upstairs of our house, and he was crying, and he said that he was really scared and he didn't want to have to go to Iraq. So we were able to have a whole conversation about sometimes some fear is healthy because it keeps our senses about us. And that's when he told me that he had not told anybody else, but he knew he was going to Baghdad. The Army called me, and I remember getting on the phone and him asking me, was I Lila Lipscomb? And I said yes, and he said, mother of Sergeant Michael Pedersen. And I remember dropping.
Hi everybody, I'm grateful to be part of your Peaceful Solution Character Education Fall 2018 conference. The theme being, it's time to unite. It could not be a more appropriate theme in today's world. First I want to say thank you to William. I just have really been inspired by following the quotes that he's been putting out there. So I've been kind of following you guys through William. Since my visit in 2010, Plates for Peace, I've been, like I said, I've been keeping up with you guys through William. It's really been a journey for me to be able to heal as well as I've healed. One of the things that I love about the character education is because I really strongly believe in starting with the man in the mirror. Character education is something our world is truly missing. We all need tools to survive, and the tools shared by Peaceful Solution, I believe, are the tools to help each one of us survive. As most of you know, my son, United States Army Sergeant Michael Pedersen, was killed in the Iraq War in 2003, which would change me and my family forever. And as we also know, there were no weapons of mass destruction. And as we also know, many of us believe that it was based on greed and lies, which we know are basically the basis for most wars in today's world. My journey after my son's death to find answers was to find a place where I would be able to live with this huge hole in my heart and my soul. War is never the answer. Yes, I do believe at times we do need to defend ourselves, but that's much different than just going to war. We need to stop terrorizing people because we want what they have. In this case, as many of us believe, it was about the oil. Today, we still have Americans over there working in the oil fields. So what was the war really about? Losing Michael sent me into a pit of darkness for many years. I fought and struggled my way back to the land of the living. I had to forgive those that sent my son to his death for what I believe were the lies. I forgave so that I could finally move forward in my life, which I've been trying to do. I was tired of giving power to the greed and the lies by keeping me in the darkness and the pain. We are not responsible for the actions of others. We're only responsible for our own actions. And if we have a pure heart and are positive within ourselves, we can get through anything. And I believe this is what the character education teaches. I often ask myself, how in such a great country as America do we continue on such a path of violence and destruction? The only answers I get are because of ego and greed. So until we ourselves get a handle on our own egos and greed, this destruction is going to continue. If we as humans don't make changes within our own characters, how can we possibly change a world? Uniting together and working together is how we are all going to make it. I believe we can only work together when we respect each other. And in order to respect each other, we have to respect ourselves. After all, if we don't know who we are, how can we understand who anybody else is? One of my favorite Peaceful Solution quotes is, observing someone's actions reveals his or her true character. Actions speak louder than words. I believe we are all teachers, each one of us. We must live our lives as living examples. If we want a world of togetherness, respect, and love, then this is what we have to send out. Our actions cause reactions. As humans, we're the only ones that make this difficult. Another one of my favorite quotes is, in a difficult situation, remain calm. Getting upset will not help. Talk to yourself to calm yourself down and stay in control. By remaining calm, you'll be able to think clearly and rationally. I love it because it reaffirms what I already believe. I have a saying, keep your peace so you can keep your power. With all I've been through in my life, like each one of you, I have learned that when I allow people to pull me into their madness and anger, I lose myself and give them the power over me. I must keep my peace and calm at all costs. If I don't, I always find myself angry and frustrated, which isn't cool. A peaceful mind is a wise mind. I have come to the realization I do not have to accept others' frustration and anger. I can return love, respect, and peace to them. We do not have to allow others to pile their junk on top of us. We have choices. I believe we need to unite the Peaceful Solution Character Education in an endeavor to stop all wars and bring peace through education and moral character. I also believe that we need to begin teaching our youth character education earlier in life. This is a valuable tool, and reaching our children is reaching our future. What a wonderful world we'd have if everyone could understand and live in peace. We must unite. School violence needs to stop. Our children must stop being sent to wars based on greed and egos. We must each change within ourselves and save our future through uniting. I also believe that character education will stop the bullying in our world today. There's not a school in America today that doesn't have some sort of bullying going on. By teaching moral character in schools, we'll begin to teach the adults, because the kids take it home, and perhaps then one of the family members will say, I think I want some of that too. In serving in schools, we must not forget about the older generations. Yes, I know it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but I promise you, if I can learn, anybody can learn. We must learn to keep our peace so that we can keep our power. It's time to unite. Thank you guys once again for allowing me to be a part of your conference. I continue to support you. I continue to send you love and much respect.
Mic check, mic check.
Mic check, mic check.
Mic check, mic check.
So that, and there's many more people who are still standing behind the Peaceful Solution and with the Peaceful Solution. Some of them behind the scenes, some of them out in the open, who are still on board. But without further delay, I'm going to turn it back over to our partners in peace for their presentation.
Okay, wasn't that a great presentation from our partners in peace? All right, so now the girls have a presentation for us today. So without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce them.
Welcome, everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about acceptance as presented in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Acceptance means to look at the positive things about yourself and others. When we make fun of others, this causes breakups because the person no longer feels that they belong. They will be hurt and sad. Let's watch as Mandy and her friends learn it's better to be kind and accept others, because it's not about what's on the outside of a person, but it is what is on the inside of a person that really counts. Mandy and her friends were in art class when a new girl arrived. She sat at a nearby table and watched them paint.
Look, there's a new girl over there. Let's ask her if she wants to paint with us.
Brenda, one of Mandy's friends, said.
Paint with us. Look at her clothes. They look funny.
Then Brenda and the other girl started to laugh. The new girl heard everything they said. Hurt and disappointed, she got up and started to leave. Mandy was ashamed of the way her friends treated the new girl.
Don't you remember when you first came here? Your clothes weren't exactly in style. It doesn't even matter what a person's clothes look like. Clothes don't make the person, and besides, we're going to make a mess painting anyway. Remember what we learned in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program classes? When you treat people that way, you hurt their feelings.
Mandy called out to the new girl.
Hey, don't go. My name is Mandy. What's your name? Beth. Do you know how to paint, Beth? Yeah.
Mandy handed her the paintbrush. Beth took it and began to paint. She carefully painted a picture and then showed it to the girls. Beth really was a great painter. All the girls stood with their mouths open in amazement. Everyone except Brenda walked over and introduced themselves.
Hi, my name's Abby. You're a really great painter.
Yeah, and I'm Laura. Could you help me with my painting?
As Beth helped, Brenda reluctantly walked over and stood with them. She was ashamed of what she previously said about Beth's clothes.
We can't afford not to have an artist like you in our class.
Yeah, Mandy's right. Who cares what her clothes look like? Everyone's unique and special. Let's paint. I'm really glad I learned the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. It really solves problems.
I agree. I will never forget this lesson. I would want everyone to accept me for who I am too, not just because the way I dress.
Just to accept other people, no matter how they look or how they dress. So now we're going to turn it back over to our partners in peace.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back. So please be back in 10 minutes, 10 minutes sharp.
Following and implementing the concepts of the peaceful solution, we display examples of morality. And with this, we're going to get started in our afternoon session, so I want to turn it to our first speaker. Please welcome her.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here with you today, and I'm glad the room is so filled because I want you all to know that you are witnessing the calling out of a generation that must come to know what the true meaning of unity is. You see, because society has a misconception of what unity is. They don't understand true unity. And we can see this almost daily in the news with the protests and marches, and when people gather together, they think that they're united under a cause, but they're really not united at all. They're in disunity. They have protests with counter-protests at the same locations. And really, it's a delusion. It's a delusion of unity, and it's worldwide. What they are really is warring factions coming together against a perceived enemy. It's widening of separations, and it really sows seeds of conflicts, and it fuels retaliations, intolerance, hatred, violence, war, and then ultimately death. This disunity and this mentality has given birth to a generation of children who have only known violence, who don't even have a memory of a life before bombings and fear and neglect and loss. It's a generation of children left emotionally and mentally traumatized. There was a study that was done, it was published by the Journal of Prevention of Medicine and done by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente. It's called the ACEs study. It means adverse childhood experiences. And it identifies this trauma, the trauma that I spoke about, as toxic stress. And you can see what that word toxic is poisonous. It's poisonous stress. And it describes it as a chronic activation of a stress response system. And it leads to profound changes in brain development, particularly in children. This right here is a picture of a normal brain, supposedly normal brain, and the smaller brain is actually a brain that shrunk. And what occurs with toxic stress is it actually shrinks the neurons in the brain, and it hinders development in a child's brain. Children who suffer from extreme neglect due to many factors, including psychological abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, neglect, physical neglect, and loss of a parent, really loss of a parent for any reason. That could be from divorce, separation, death, and it actually shrinks the brain, so the child is not able to develop emotionally and mentally properly. They can't learn to regulate their emotions when they live in this constant state of stress. This is a picture of the neurons that are in the brain. You can see where the larger connections are. The larger connections would probably be where you'd want to be, but the smaller ones, when there's toxic stress that a child experiences, or even a grown person all the time, it disconnects those neurons. They're disconnected, and it disrupts the mechanisms that are in the brain, in the brain's memory and in the emotional center. And more than 60% of children worldwide who have experienced trauma, they have impairments in language, writing, memory, following directions, taking feedback from adults, tolerating stress, and actually learning from their mistakes. It also increases oppositional behavior. So you can see where this would be a continual cycle of disunity. And all of this occurs because of disunity. But it doesn't stop at just the brain, because it affects the heart also. See, our hearts have very similar neurons in it, at the same as the brain does. Our brain and heart are they're very closely connected, and they create a whole, like a symbiotic relationship. It's like almost like a marriage, where each is dependent on the other. See, the neurons in our heart help our brain to make thoughts, to think, to form thoughts. The brain's region that's affected by the heart is associated with threat perception. So you can see where when a child is in a chronic state of stress, they have that constant perception of a threat to their well-being. And that's directly associated with the same in the heart. It processes fear in combination with the signaling from the heart, and that's how they process fear. It's misfiring, misprocessing. And it's the same connection when you experience compassion or empathy towards someone. So you can see how disunity totally disrupts that. But there is great news. When the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is taught and applied, it actually reconnects those neurons. It will actually build new pathways because of the positive character education that's being applied. It reconnects those neurons. So you're going to go from those broken ones, and as you layer the character education one upon another, it will reconnect and rebuild that, helping to become a whole and healthier person. The ability of the brain to do that, and also of the heart, it's called neuroplasticity. Even though, positive thinking can help to do that, but not in the same capacity that the Peaceful Solution does. Because the Peaceful Solution concepts that are taught, they actually do the healing, the total healing in the mind and heart. We know that the Peaceful Solution Character Education, it changes the mind and the heart. But when you look at it this way, it really changes the mind and heart. It creates new pathways. It's the Peaceful Solution actually teaches what true unity is. True unity is a state of being one, and it's joined and united as a whole to act in concert, which is what we want to do, so that learning how to have that respect toward one another and that unity toward one another, we need that unity, not just one towards another, but within ourselves as well. And united means made one, agree and act together as a single entity, being in harmony, in one accord and in one agreement. Peace, cooperation, orderly, and please note this last part, linked by a moral bond. And that moral bond is the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. The concepts that we learn from there, the acceptance, the respect, the self-control, the forgiveness, the empathy and hope, and how to make positive moral choices in your life. The true unity, moral character, all that learning. One of the key things is the forgiveness. That's key to that healing. When wounded minds and hearts learn how to forgive, that's the catalyst to being able to apply the rest of the solution, the Peaceful Solution, because it's layered one upon another. And we heard that in the class last night, that it layers one upon another, and it's a building block. And the more you make those positive choices, the more you become whole and healthy. And that's the key to healing this generation. With every positive moral choice you make, the connections in the brain are made, and the mind and heart connections work in sync that way. So again, you are the calling of a generation, and a generation that must come to know what true unity means. And the way we come to know that is by learning and applying the Peaceful Solution. We need teachers to teach the Peaceful Solution so that we all can learn, and we can become those teachers that help the generation, the wounded children, the hurt children, the wounded people, the parents who don't know how to teach or protect their own children. We need those teachers that can heal and give hope and help others to know what true unity is. And it's only through education and the Peaceful Solution Character Education. So I really urge you all to find out more about how you can become part of the program, how you can learn to teach it, so that you can be part of the healing. So with that, I thank you very much, and I would like to turn the podium over to our next speaker.
Hello everyone, my name is Hazel and I'm from Guyana, and today I will be speaking on intolerance in the world today and in our society. And my topic here is a hope for a unified world where intolerance ceases to exist. The definition of intolerance taken from Oxford Dictionary is the unwillingness to accept the views and the belief or the behavior that differs from one's own. Simply put, intolerance is the opposite of acceptance, and it came in many different forms, such as stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination. Intolerance is when directed at a community, individual, or the world. It produces fear, anger, resentment, and even war. We see in the world today that intolerance is no nation is exempt from this evil of intolerance. It is a self-sustained vicious cycle that is plaguing our world today. It is a new norm. We saw that there is a social disorder due to intolerance in the world. The intolerance attitude begins when one judges each other as unworthy to live in peace and security because of superficial differences such as the color of the skin, the culture, political differences, and religion. If this attitude of intolerance continues in the minds of individual or nation, it can pass down to the future generation that will continue to practice this vicious cycle. May I have my first slide? Intolerance leads to violence, conflict, distrust or fear, hatred, and the devaluing of human lives. Regardless of our differences, we must have a fundamental value and respect for all human life. We see there's many examples of intolerance shown down through the history to this present time. And I was checking out intolerance in the world, and Holocaust was one of the first that came up. But while I was checking on Holocaust, there's a group of people, the Gypsies, and it sparked my attention, so I decided to research this group. And in the Second World War, along with the Jews, the 6,000 Jews that died, there were 500,000 Gypsies known as the Rama people. As much as close to 1 million of this group of people died in the Holocaust. They were persecuted, they were deported, enslaved, and hundreds were incinerated in a Nazi oven. Many countries in Europe, 99% of this group of people were wiped out during World War II. Even in the world today, this group of people moved from India to Europe about 1,000 years ago. For centuries, they are placed at the lowest level in the rank of the social scale, and it still is today. Many countries in Europe passes laws to suppress their culture and keep them out of mainstream. Millions of euros are funded by EU to help this group of people economically and socially. But none of the funding have reached this group of people. All this have come to is low low education, they said there's the highest level of intolerance, a highest level of lack of education among this group of people. They refuse employment. They're also forced to live in homes that is not adequate for living. And also they are constantly persecuted and they are constantly evicted from their homes and they cannot buy land. And constantly they are, when there's crime in the neighborhood, they're the ones that are blamed for that. We see there's a high level of discrimination among this group of people due to intolerance. This is just a fraction of the intolerance that we see in the world today. May I have the other slide? Thank you. We see on the news today that many people, they focus on superficial belief because of the color of their skin and so forth. But we see that we can make a difference. And today I'm saying to you, we can see past the difference of the color of our skin. And I'm asking you there, so it's time for us to unite. It's time to do what is right. It's time for us to see past our differences. Even though we have different physical characteristics, but on the inside we are the same. It is a proven fact that we are kin beneath the skin. We are not so different after all. We are the human race are sharing 99.9% of the same genes and 0.1% accounting for our physical differences. As you can see, we're not so different after all. But then why are we emphasizing on the 0.1% instead of embracing the 99% of our similarity, which is our strength that we can use to build a solid foundation for unity, embracing the uniqueness in each member of the human race as the key component. We are the most intelligent species on planet Earth, with the ability to learn and grow together in unity. Someone once said, the greatest results of an education is tolerance. So why can't we learn to coexist and respect each other regardless of our differences? It is a proven fact that intolerance and hatred are learned behavior. If a child can be taught intolerance, they can also taught tolerance and to value human life. How can we solve the problem of intolerance? The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program can solve all problems, and intolerance is no exemption. It is the goal of the Peaceful Solution to change the heart and mind of every individual in a positive way. There's 2 steps to eradicating intolerance in the world today. 1, we have to look beyond the superficial difference of others and see each person as valuable, special, and unique. 2, regard others as with the same care and compassion as ourselves. 2, become educated through the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program to build a positive moral character. This will enable us to discern and accept the character of others, which is the core of who we really are. Education in acceptance should be taught to children from their formative age by their parents and also even within the womb. It should also be continued in school. It should be a part of every school curriculum. And for the adults, you're not left out. We have the workplace manual, which also help us to continue acceptance for each other. It's also we can forgive each other and move past. It would help to build our moral character. I also want to say to you here that we see the intolerance that is in the world, and it is hurting the world today. It is bringing destruction to our world. May I have the next slide? Thank you. This is the result of intolerance in Syria, a nation divided. In closing, I want to extend our hands to you to join us to bring an end to intolerance that is destroying our world today. Remember, we are one human family on the planet Earth. Working together in unity, we could accomplish more to bring an end to intolerance, to become a unified world. It's time for us to unite. It starts with us. It's time for us to unite, for you and me. And with this, I turn it over to the next speaker.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kana.
And my name is Leah Vize.
And the title of our presentation today is Break the Ice. I want you to imagine that we're about to go to a very cold place to go ice fishing. And it's completely frozen everywhere, and it's icy everywhere you go. And then as you go along, we end up finding this frozen lake. And yes, even though it's frozen, it's still beautiful because it's full of life and has so many different creatures and different kinds of fish. But you would never know that, would you? You would never know that, not unless you break that ice and dig in.
The same goes with people. When it comes to accepting someone out, society can be very cold and intolerant. This leads to conflict and hatred. Let's break down how this occurs with the equation of hate.
So it starts with intolerance, which is whenever we're unwilling to accept another person. So let's say, for example, you got a new coworker who really likes the color blue. And she likes blue a lot because almost all her belongings in her office are blue. However, you don't like blue at all. You actually hate that color, which is okay, but you're not willing to accept that she does. So then you're going to become inconsiderate, which is displaying a lack of thoughtful concern towards others. You may start to be intentionally hurtful towards your coworker. Maybe start calling her names behind her back and then going in her office, go rearrange all her things and she's not looking. Little small things like this that show no regard for her feelings.
This turns into racism, which is the mistreatment of a group of people due to nationality or ethnicity. So then you could start being inconsiderate and cold towards anyone who likes the color blue. This becomes discrimination, which is the treatment based on class of category rather than an individual's own qualities. It's like prejudice. You begin classifying anyone who likes the color blue as a bad person that you shouldn't be around. This finally brings us to hate. The intense, extreme dislike of someone. Next thing you know, you have a strong hatred for anyone who likes the color blue. This is just a simple example, but many are hated because of small things like this. This equation exists because of a lack of acceptance.
Failure to accept others has led to untold suffering of many innocent people. Why must people be humiliated just because of the color of their skin, where they're born, or even how tall or short they are? So starting with ourselves and the people we see and interact with every day, we can learn to be accepting of others regardless of their differences. So let's start breaking this ice.
You may not always see the differences others have. Let's say, for example, someone had an injury. They seem to recover okay, but at times there are still challenges they face because of the injury. Just because you don't physically see something doesn't mean it's not there. No matter what a person goes through in life, they should always be treated with care, concern, and compassion. Don't make someone who has an injury feel like they are less than you.
So we're going to go over 4 steps. And step number 1 is get to know others. People tend to disrespect others because either they don't know enough about them or they don't understand them sufficiently. So we should take the time to get to know others before we decide that we don't like them. Because think about it. How can you hate someone you don't even know?
Start with simple icebreaker questions. Some examples are, where are you from? How many siblings do you have? What foods do you like to eat? What are your hobbies? Become familiar with the people you interact with. Learn about their needs, feelings, likes, and dislikes. If you learn they don't like certain things, you could avoid doing those things in their presence.
Now, in order to have a positive relationship, we must be respectful in our interactions. And this includes being courteous by using words like please, may I, thank you, and also excuse me. And also by being kind. And it doesn't have to be huge, grand gestures, just small things. Like if you see someone coming and their hands are full, open the door for them. or greeting others when we see them, and also by not hurting them intentionally. A respectful person is willing to go the extra mile in order to be courteous and caring to everyone.
Take the time to find out who someone is on the inside. Skin color or nationality does not make or break a person. Learn about a person's character. Character defines the way you treat yourself and others. It's not as easy to recognize a person's character right away as it is their personality. If you avoid someone just because of how they look or what they like, you may miss the opportunity to get to know someone who is compassionate, respectful, honest, or patient. Take the time to learn about a person's character regardless of their personality. We should respect all people, even if we don't fully know them.
Step number 2, look at what we have in common. After getting to know someone and learning a lot about them, you can find ways you can relate to one another. Don't focus on our differences because many of them we can't even control, like our skin color, our eye color, hair type, height, or even accent. These are things that people don't choose, so no one should be rejected because of them.
Acceptance means acknowledging the many similarities that exist between each member of the human race. We are 99.9% alike. Although we may look different, on the outside, inside we are the same. We all have feelings. We all want to be loved and needed. We want to fit in and be accepted. We all have the potential to learn the value of a positive moral character.
So as an example, we both look completely different, and our families are different.
I have 3 younger sisters.
Well, I have 6 younger siblings.
I like to eat fruits and vegetables.
Well, I like to eat pizza.
I like to sew and crochet.
And I like to sing and cook. But because we both learned the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program at the age of 6, we're able to look past our differences and look at what we have in common.
We're both from Louisiana, and we both like the color pink. Wouldn't it be terrible, wouldn't it be sad, if just one single color was the color we had? If everything was purple, or red, or blue, or green? If yellow, pink, or orange was all that could be seen? Can you just imagine how dull the world would be if just one single color was all we got to see? Instead of finding reasons to annihilate each other, let's focus on the similarities we share.
Step number 3, embrace others' differences. With so much emphasis put on our physical appearance or where we come from, you would think that we're very different. But remember, we're 99.9% alike, and that only makes us 0.1% different. And that small little percentage, that's what makes us all special and unique. No 2 people are exactly alike. Even twins, they have differences too. And the world would be a very boring place if everyone was exactly the same. Just think about living in a world where everyone talked like you. Everyone acted like you. They looked like you, and they like the same things as you. That would be very, very boring and even a little bit weird. So, there's nothing wrong with being different.
We should respect the various nationalities and cultures of others. Step number 4, everyone should feel valuable and respected. People come in all different shapes, sizes, nationalities, and cultures, but that doesn't matter. Everyone still deserves respect. No one should ever be made to feel unimportant or like they don't have value. Everyone is special, which means they do have value. Don't let the fact that someone looks different stop you from being respectful and polite.
Because many are teased and bullied, mistreated, and made to feel unimportant, many innocent lives are constantly taken. And many suicides, they also take place because of this. No one should be made to feel as if he's less than he is, just so someone else can feel great about himself for a short time.
Imagine how it would feel to be hated and disrespected about the physical traits you had no control over. Part of being accepting of others and having consideration is having empathy. Empathy is putting yourself in others' shoes and asking yourself, how would I feel if someone treated me this way or made fun of me? If you know you wouldn't want to be put down or belittled, don't do it to someone else.
Always remember that people have value and must be respected because they're living, breathing members of the human race. They have goals, abilities, and potential, and they can build a positive moral character and be productive members of society. Respecting diversity means not teasing, putting down, or ignoring others. We need to make a conscious effort to be respectful and compassionate towards others of different cultures. We have a responsibility to respect others no matter what.
Treat others the way you would want to be treated. By doing so, you may discover a friend you didn't know you had. Once we get to know others and respect each other's differences and are able to treat each other with care, concern, and value, we can turn enemies into friends.
It is time to break the ice walls we have built around ourselves, the ones that prevent us from being accepting of others. Remember, we're only able to truly see the beauty of diversity once we break the ice and dig in deeper.
It starts with me and you. It starts with me and you. Learn to appreciate and accept the people around you, such as your family, co-workers, classmates, and neighbors. Soon enough, others will too. By treating others with kindness, others are motivated to treat others with kindness. It will start the ripple effect, and we will begin to see peace and unity again. We would like to thank the author of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, Yusra Hawkins, for allowing us to be a part of this fall 2018 Peace Conference, Time to Unite. We would like to turn it back over to the chairperson.
Let's give our speakers another round of applause. They did an excellent job. So let's kind of do a recap. So we learned how stress not only affects our brain, but it also affects our heart, and how when you implement the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, it makes these pathways. And over time, when you implement the Peaceful Solution and you make these right choices, it kind of rewires your brain. And then our next speaker talked about intolerance and how intolerance rips people's lives apart, where they have to relocate, and it suppresses them of their morality, value and morality. And then our last speakers, they simply just talked about embracing our differences. And even though we're 99.9% alike, it's that 0.1 difference that causes all these problems. Yet, as they stated, if we were all alike, it would make the world a boring place. So remember that we should accept everyone and accept everyone, because we all deserve that. So let's break the ice. And with this, I'm going to turn over to our partners in peace.
Test. Okay. They did a really, really wonderful job. Everyone give them another round of applause. Now, we've had many requests from people who came in later and didn't get to see this morning, and people who are watching online. A representative from the UN named Bawa Jane spoke this morning at the conference, not live, but over Skype. And many people didn't get to see it. So at this time, we're going to replay that video so that everybody who didn't get to see it can watch it, because it was really, really amazing. And at this time, let's play the video.
Great morning to everybody. How y'all doing? Fellow chairman, Peaceful Solution honored guests. We have dignitaries here. And also our fellow Peaceful Solution family. For over 40 years, Yusra Hawkins has worked tirelessly, with a single-minded zeal to show all nations the way to stop the horrors of war and enjoy true peace and abundant living. You know, in 2004, he started to work in Laredo, Texas, that Chris just started talking about. Yes, there's a lot of crime across the river. You know, there's 80,000 people have been killed in Mexico just in the last 5 years. Okay, there's a real war going on. But there's also a work of peace taking place. Now, Mr. Yusra Hawkins' approach is one that has never been tried on a wide scale, and that's peace through character education. In 1988, Yusra Hawkins first introduced this plan for peace, or the peaceful solution to ending the Arab-Israeli conflict. He met with many world dignitaries, as you see, should be playing back before us now. In 1994, work began in earnest on a character education curriculum for all ages, teaching the basic principles of character development for all people. In 1995, Mr. Hawkins began traveling to meet with world government and religious leaders to promote the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Every leader that Mr. Hawkins met with agreed that peace through character education is the only true way that will bring true and lasting peace. There is no other way. All these leaders agreed. In 2000, the year 2000, on 8/28/2000, Mr. Israel Hawkins was invited to speak at the Millennium Forum of World Religious Leaders at the UN headquarters in New York City. Israel Hawkins joined Israel's chief rabbi, an emissary of Iran's top Ayatollah, the head of the World Council of Churches, and a granddaughter of Mahatma Gandhi, and over 2,000 members and attendees at the UN, and presented them with the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. And as you can see, many of those dignitaries were passing those out too, the Peaceful Solution brochures, and they were all told about this great program. While there, Mr. Israel Hawkins met the organizer of the summit, Mr. Bawa Jain, Secretary General of the World Council of Religious Leaders. Now let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Bawa Jain. He was born February 16, 1957. He is the first Secretary General of the World Council of Religious Leaders, which serves as an interfaith ally to the United Nations. He works with governments of the world and intergovernmental bodies to reduce religiously motivated conflicts and to build peace. He's the founder of the World Movement for Nonviolence. He conceived of the Gandhi King Award, which fosters the practice and principles of nonviolence in daily life. Sound familiar? Past recipients include the late UN General Secretary Kofi Annan, Nelson Mandela, the President of Africa, and Dr. Jane Goodall. He's the co-director of the Season for Nonviolence. He serves as the founding chairman of the World Youth Peace Summit, an initiative that has brought together young leaders from over 100 countries to explore new and innovative youth-driven initiatives to address global challenges. Mr. Jain helped create nonviolent youth programs. These programs are now operating in 115 cities in the United States and in 15 countries. It's a lot, right? I'm not done. Mr. Jain organized an annual interfaith service that continues to mark the opening of the United Nations General Assembly. At the request of UN agencies and governments, Bawa Jain travels around the world to speak on religious diplomacy and peace. He is published author and has been the recipient of numerous awards. Since 2000, Mr. Bawa Jain has worked together with Mr. Israel Hawkins to prevent nuclear war and peace, and bring peace through character education to every individual of every nation. On July 17, 2018, we were invited, the Peaceful Solution was invited by Mr. Bawa Jain to attend a Sustainable Development Youth Initiative conference at the United Nations on the very day, August 28, 2018, 18 years to the day after Mr. Israel Hawkins attended the World Summit. Sorry to say it got canceled and it got moved forward, but we look forward to working with Mr. Jain on this. Mr. Bawa Jain is currently in Copenhagen, Denmark, right now as we speak, where he is attending a wedding ceremony for his dear niece. Mr. Jain, now I want you to understand this is a great honor that this man is showing this body of the Peaceful Solution family, because he's on vacation. It's probably a working vacation knowing him, but he took the time to be with us here today. Mr. Bawa Jain has opened and continues to open gates for the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program at the United Nations, and now we open our gates for this great man and friend. On behalf of Mr. Israel Hawkins and the entire Peaceful Solution Character Education family who all love this man, let's all give a warm welcome to our friend, the Secretary General, Bawa Jain.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that warm introduction. It's good to connect with you all once again. Yes, I am in Copenhagen attending my niece's wedding, but I know how important this opportunity is, and I cannot let it pass by to communicate, especially with the youth. I recall with great fondness my time together with Mr. Israel Hawkins, some 18 years ago. And I believe since then he's only become younger and more energetic than ever before. That bodes well for the future of the peaceful solutions. I think if we look at the world today, we are living in a very, very momentous time in history. There's so much strife, there's so much conflict, and there's so much uneasiness. To me, these are perfect opportunities and perfect moments for something unique and inspirational to take birth. I always say that it's only in times of adversity that you truly demonstrate the inner core, inner being, and the strength of one's character. We are in such times now. Wherever we look in the world, we see a lot of unrest, uneasiness. So the work that you all are doing and the work that we are committed to is indeed extremely, extremely urgent. And I can at least say, it's not just important, but it is absolutely incumbent upon us. It behooves each one of us to do whatever we can so that our fellow brothers and sisters, our human family, not one person is allowed to suffer. Just not going to help us if somebody is allowed to suffer. If there are disenfranchised people, if there are poor and hungry people, if there are people who are seeking a basic roof over their heads, if there are children who are malnutrition, if there are children who don't have access to safe drinking water, they don't have any access to any medical needs, that's something we cannot allow and must not allow. We are one family, and for us to survive, we must ensure that everybody can survive, not just survive, but thrive, and be there to support each other. That's what our effort is for. For years I've been engaged in the work, what I call religious diplomacy. Now, I might add for a minute, what is religious diplomacy? Religious diplomacy is really just harnessing the power of religion and faith. And if you know, the United Nations Human Rights Declaration, which was conceived and signed in 1948, is all based on the core values of each of the world's great religions. So the work of the United Nations, to my mind, is deeply driven by those values and by those teachings which are inherent and enshrined in each of our sacred religions. So it's not separate from anything that we do. So what we do is bring the religious leaders, the religious teachings into the work of the United Nations, but specifically on the social challenges and issues that we face. The United Nations is extraordinary. It's the only institution that we have to negotiate policy which affects every one of us on the planet. Where the UN needs help and where we seek to partner, this is where religious diplomacy comes in play, is harnessing the religious institutions, the religious organizations, the religious traditions, the spiritual leaders, the people committed to working for a noble cause, get them to work together in different parts of the world in supporting the work of the United Nations. So it's simply getting the power of faith in action. And why do I choose that? Is that the reality is that today, over 90% of the world's population follows one religion or the other. These are not my statistics. These are the Pew poll, but also you can check out. So tell me, which political outfit in the world, any government of the world, do they enjoy 90% of support, following, or outreach? So the political leaders need the religious leaders if they indeed want to reach out to the masses, because these are the people who have direct access to the masses. We try and provide that link, the bridge, to bring those messages of government, the messages of the international institutions like the United Nations to every human being on the planet. And we must come together to address these challenges together. Look at the issues of the climate control. We've seen the recent spurt of horrible floods. In Texas, you saw what happened last year. How many people suffered and died. This year, recently in North Carolina, South Carolina, all along that eastern seaboard. Just recently, you saw that. Last year, it was Hurricane Irma. Each year, these storms are increasing. And we have to be there to support each other. We must do something so that we can ensure that the future planet that we want to pass on to our children and our children's children will indeed be a better place than what we are living in today. That they will have a secure future. That they will be more responsible in giving back to the communities, not just seeking to exploit and for themselves. Because I think if you only want to live for yourself, then think only about yourself. But if you think that you'll survive that way, I think you are sadly mistaken. Because if we do not care for each other and nurture the planet, there will be no existence. Look at the issue of nuclear weapons, for instance, right? Humanity has created all these weapons of mass destruction that at the press of a button, in a split second, millions and billions of lives can be destroyed. In fact, we have so much nuclear weapons on the planet that the entire planet can be wiped off again and again and again, many times over. Is that an environment which we can allow to continue? We cannot leave the future of our children just at the whims of one person who may choose to press that button and annihilate all humanity forever. We cannot allow that. We must do all that we can to see that we can get the world rid of the nuclear weapons. They are a grave danger to the existence of all of us. That's something which I would like to see more and more people get actively engaged in. One. Second, I mentioned already the issues of the environment. How can we build networks across the planet and see what are the key issues that we can do in our own little homes, in our own little communities? Remember, don't be daunted by that the task is too great. Let's start, each one of us take a responsibility. I can be responsible for my actions, so let's start with doing something in our own homes, in our own communities, in our own towns. And you will see the power that will come out of that. That's it. Then there are the people who are the hungry, the poor. We must give us of ourselves. Isn't that what God teaches us? Share with your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto your neighbor as you would have them do unto you. Right? Do we live those principles? Honestly, just ask yourselves a question. How many of us truly say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you? Love your neighbor as yourself. To me, these are the two core critical commandments. If we follow these two commandments, I don't think there can be any strife in the world. But do we follow them? If not, then what are we going to do about it? We have to do something. Reach out into your communities. You have the power. Don't let it go. We see a lot of uncertainty, especially in our country, in the greatest country of the planet, the most powerful nation, the United States of America. Today, there are inner fabric, the moral fabric of our society is being torn by bias and discrimination and differences. This is an opportunity we must seize to bridge those gaps. Don't let any form of discrimination, bigotry, hatred, ethnic differences, racial differences, sexual orientation, don't let that be a dividing factor. Look at the collective of one humanity and see what we can do to nurture each other, to support each other. Are you with me on that? Do you think you all are willing to do something about that? If so, make some noise. Let me hear you. Thank you. Now I wanted to invite my friend Mr. Israel Hawkins and remember him. I recall very fondly our meeting now almost 18 years ago, and the books that he gave me still sit in my office. And I said then and I say now, God bless you, continue this wonderful work. This is the work of God, you are a noble soul. With a peaceful solution and all that the work that you are doing, I would love to see if you can help set some benchmarks, some standards of what you would like to accomplish, say, in the next 1 year, 2 years, and 5 years. Let's work together on a plan and ask me wherever you think I can be of help, where our networks can be of help and support. And we need more and more such institutions, organizations like yourselves, individuals like Mr. Hawkins, who are willing to go out just for the sake of others on the planet, not just for themselves, but to see what they can give back, because we've been very blessed. We have received plenty, but now it's our turn to also give back. So I would like to see what we can do towards helping each other, supporting each other. And one of my experience has been is that to be successful, one must form some good strategic alliances, partnerships and alliance, and you'll see where alignment of interests are there, where we can share our resources. Because remember, in my mathematics, 1 plus 1 is not 2, but 11. 1 plus 1 is 11. So imagine 1 plus 1 plus 1 is not 3, but 111. That's the power of togetherness. Let's see what we can do to support each other. Harness the resources that are available to us. Implement some small programs, even howsoever small, but at least do something. Doing nothing is a problem. Doing something is a huge, huge contribution. Don't underestimate the power of one individual. It only takes one individual to change the planet. Remember? Now, I might tell you, what is it? Let me ask you a question. If this were the last day of your life, what would you most want to be remembered for? Think to yourselves that if tomorrow you're not going to be alive anymore, how will people remember you? Then reflect. Are you happy with that? If not, then go do something till the last days of your planet. Till the last time that you're on the planet, every breath that you breathe. What you want to give back. What you want people to remember you for. Okay? Think about that. One. Make those changes that you'd like to see. How people remember you. I'll give you an example on this. I'm sure all of you know about Alfred Nobel, the man who created the Nobel Prizes. Do you know that what inspired him to create the Nobel Prizes? One day, he woke up in the morning, picked up the newspaper. By mistake, somebody had printed his obituary. And his obituary talked about all the weapons of mass destruction he had created. He's the man who had founded dynamite and things which could just destroy all humanity. He was aghast. He says, is this what I'm going to be remembered for? Is this what I want to be remembered for? He said, no, I'm going to change my legacy. After that, if you see, he launched the Nobel Prizes. Today, does anybody think of him, Alfred Nobel, as a person who developed dynamite and weapons of mass destruction? We all remember that the Nobel Prizes and aspire to the highest aspirations of one's human life and commitment to any field. That, to me, was the driving factor in my motivation to see how I want to be remembered for the day I leave this planet. And I'm going to continue to do what I feel can help all of humanity and whatever little contribution we can make. And I hope that you share that ideal with me. If not, I hope what I have shared with you today inspires you into committing to some form of action to make a difference in the planet. It's all one planet. We are one human family. Let's do all we can to support each other, to ensure a planet which is better, brighter, and more friendly to the others, to every person in the planet, to all forms of creation. We have to be there to support each other. I hope that next year, when I see you all, you will give me a whole list of things which you have done between now and then. Specific things which have touched the lives of people, which have helped the lives of people, transformed the lives of people, which have lifted up people, that indeed we can all be proud of when we go away from this planet, of what we gave to the planet rather than what we take away. Let's nurture that as a habit, to give and give and give. For the greatest gift one can give is a gift of giving, not receiving. That is the greatest joy. Try it sometimes. It is infectious. The more you give, the more it nourishes you, the more you get energized, the more it builds core of your inner strength to continue to do more. So let's do something that our Heavenly Father can be proud of. Say, these are my children, they are good children, and they will ensure that the world will be a better place for all of us. God bless you. Thank you. I'm open to any questions, any things that you would like to raise. Please do. Thank you. Thank you.
And I've been working with Dr. Hawkins for many years and helping teach character education along with many people. And he has always used a story about you to inspire us about how we can get things done. And we've seen the Peaceful Solution Character Education change many lives. We have teachers, judges, world leaders who all speak highly of this program. But pondering your question, are we getting done with what we want to get done in life? I think we here want to know, and asking with all humility, we're doing some things, but what more can we do as an organization? What more can we do from your point of view to help better not only ourselves but society as a whole on this planet?
I think one of the first things is we have to acknowledge what are the challenges facing each of our communities. Can we be honest and just make an assessment, do an audit of what are the issues which are most pressing in our own communities? Make a list of this, literally. And then start saying, what is it that you can do to help address some of those challenges? So one is make that list. Second is I want to ask you if you would be willing to designate some teams to local schools in your area, specifically with the youth. Reach out to them to see, go and identify who are the outstanding people or who are the people you could motivate in schools on being the heroes of the school. People who are willing to commit to helping those in need. Remember, bullying is a big problem in schools. People who are willing to go and stand up to the bullies and ensure that nobody is discriminated for whatever reason. That's the second part. Third, I would ask is, how many people in your own communities and your own networks know about the days which are sacred to other religions? So I said, pick any religion that you want. Said 3 religions. Let's just say Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Let's start with that. Do you know what are the days sacred to each of those 3 traditions? What do they mean? Identify those things, educate people on what is the true meaning of each of those sacred days. And let's honor each other, celebrate with each other. That will help inspire some trust, it will build bridges, and I'm sure when you can build trust and build some bridges, you'll see that it will also give hope that maybe if there are any problems, any challenges, we can do some things together. That's the second part. But then I also move it beyond just the communities and schools, move it to your town, move it to your state, move it to the country, and create a ripple effect. And indeed, someday it can be felt in all corners of the world. I'm giving you 3 specific things. If you do that, I think that'll be quite, to my mind, heroic. And I would be very gratified to see if we can build that kind of a movement, that kind of a momentum, that we can start to educate people, be there to support each other, and share with each other.
Thank you very much for your answer. You know, we set a goal. We taught 1 million students in 30 different countries in the past year. So we're going to set our goal by the time we see you next to have 2 million taught and to be moving forward and to take the advice you have given us and put it to the utmost use. Thank you very much, Mr. Jain.
Hello, Mr. Jain. Today, it can be hard to understand with all the negatives that we see. Wars, suicide, bombings, chemical attacks, genocides. It can be a challenge to have a positive outlook for our future. This program has helped me, and I know I can't be the only one that feels this way. From what you see looking outwardly at this world, what can be done to help bring hope into humanity?
We have no choice. We have to have hope. If you don't have hope, there is going to be no life. And hope comes from a position when you become confident within yourself that your life matters and what you do matter. It's a question of building self-esteem, first of all, to my mind. And there can never be a time when we can give up on hope. There's just no room for despair. Remember, the extraordinary people in our lifetimes or even in history are the ones who, through the most adverse and difficult circumstances, chose not to give up and chose to have hope. Remember President Nelson Mandela. I mean, one of the most inspirational human beings that I've had the honor of meeting. He was imprisoned for 27 years in hard, solitary confinement on Robben Island. If you recall, when he came out from prison after 27 years, he was not a bitter man. If you go back and into the archives and hear what he said, his first words were, "As I was saying the other day." 27 years of that punishment that he had to endure, to him was just the other day. What an amazing spirit. And when the world was being ripped apart through its seams, he chose to rise above, shed the violence that his party, the ANC, was engaged in, and pursue a path of non-violence and reconciliation. Look at that example. In our own country, look at Dr. Martin Luther King. All the days of segregation, right? Look what he chose to do. Let's unite. I have a dream, right? Look at Mahatma Gandhi in another part of the planet. And by the way, as you know, Martin Luther King was deeply inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. And for me, it's very personal because Gandhi's mother was a Jain. He followed the teachings of principles of ahimsa from Jainism. That's the path which I follow. So when you follow that path of non-violence in your thinking, in your speech, in your action, there is no room for giving up. You have to pick up wherever most difficult circumstances might be and see that you can do something, even howsoever small it might be. Okay? Who's to judge what is more important? Each one of us is called to do something on a different level. Some at a global scale, some in communities. To me, each one is equally important, if not important than the other. Hope is something which God has given us as a birthright. We cannot shed that away. We may choose to ignore it. We may choose to suppress it. That's your individual choice. It is out there. It's up to you. Are you willing to do something? Ask yourself that question.
Mr. Jain, I do appreciate you being with us here this morning. Do you have time for another question?
Sure.
Thank you. And I've seen pictures of you with the author of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, Israel Hawkins, back in 2000 and also in 2001, or in 2001. And I was wondering, since meeting Israel Hawkins at the World Summit on Peace, the program that he has authored, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, has gone out to over 30 countries to help others seek peace. And I was wondering what more can be done to help our society as a whole.
One is that I think, remember, I learned something from Dr. Ted Turner. Remember, in a business model in our schools across the USA, we are taught, set yourselves goals which you can realistically feel you can accomplish and measure. Dr. Ted Turner, in a meeting where we were sitting with him, he said something very different, which at that time threw me off, but then it really made sense. And I share that with you. Set yourself those goals in life which you realistically feel you cannot accomplish. For me, I have set peace as my goal. I'm going to keep working for it for the rest of my life. Do I hope to achieve it? Yes, I hope to achieve it. Do I think it will happen? I don't want to be caught and think it will happen or not. I want to keep doing my part. And I'll work for the rest of my life. I cannot measure it each year, but I can set smaller goals under that, the sub-goals, to see, okay, this year, as you said, you are educating 1 million people in 30 countries. I would love to see that expanded not just to 2 million, but to 10 million. Remember, the first million is difficult part. Then it has the multiplier effect, the domino effect. It can be multiplied very rapidly and very quickly. So, be more ambitious. I would set to you a goal. I would have said 10, okay, but if you do 5 million, I'll be very, very happy. And the 15 countries must be at least 30 countries or more by next year. I would love to hear that, and I'm sure that you will yourself be very happy if you can accomplish that. Reach out. Remember, we used to talk of 6 degrees of separation, but with technology and the way things are today, we are not even 5 degrees apart. Okay? So you can use all kinds of technology which is available to us, which is we are blessed to have, and multiply what you are doing many-fold in a shorter period of time. Can we do that? Remember, I'm sitting here, I want to show you before, I wish Mr. Hawkins was here. I'm here by the fjords. Across the water from me here is Sweden, right across there. Here I'm in Denmark. So the world is very small. All we have to do is start reaching out. Okay? Be like the water. Have the qualities of water. Water finds a way to get through any space, howsoever you might restrict it. If we can have those qualities of water, find a way through anything, then you'll see the difference. God bless. Let's do it together.
Okay, Mr. Jain?
Yes, I'm here.
On behalf of the Peaceful Solutions author, Mr. Israel Hawkins, we all are very thankful to you for taking your time and your busy schedule to meet with us today. It's been such a great honor, and we are going to give you an opportunity right now to go ahead and address the conference for the final time and give your message to Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Hawkins, what a pleasure to connect with you this way. Of course, if you remember 18 years ago, my beard was a little more black, my hair was a little more black. But as you see, years are catching up. But the spirit continues to be young. I look forward to meeting you again and to be joining you physically and in person in the future. And until then, I'll say God bless, and let's continue what we've started, and let the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, guide us as we spread this work of God's message of peace to all corners of the planet. God bless. Bye.
All right, everybody, let's not forget what Mr. Jain said. Let's not forget what he said. We all really need to work together, starting with ourselves, then spreading out to our communities, spreading out to the larger parts of our communities, our states, our cities, our states, our country, our nations, and then our world. And that's how we can make a difference. Now, coming back home to our community, well, home for us here at Abilene and Clyde, we heard from the County Commissioner, Mr. Farmer, this morning. And we also have another special guest who we heard from the last time. If you were here the last time, we had him here, and he also gave a wonderful presentation. He met with us a while ago, and we got to get to meet him and get to know him, and he stands for a lot of positive values. A lot of positive values. He's a no messing around kind of guy, and he really means what he says. So that's a really great thing, and really great to have him here in our community as the county judge January 1st, come January 1st of next year. So he's a father of 5. He was born here well, not here, but right outside of here in Abilene. He's been in law enforcement for 40 years and worked as a police chief for 21 years. And he ran for county judge this year, and he actually won. And he will be our county judge here come January 1st. Everybody, please give a round of applause to Mr. Scott Niffen.
Thank you. Thank you. Please sit down. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak here to you today. It's always a privilege to come to the House of Yahweh, especially at one of the conferences for the Peaceful Solutions Education Program. This is something I believe very strongly in. And I'm encouraged to see all these young people here and how attentive they are. And you all are listening to some pretty grown-up topics. And we appreciate your attention and your commitment. Y'all are pretty brave allowing a politician to come and speak to you, and I appreciate you taking the time. I'll try not to take too much of your time because I know this wasn't necessarily on the agenda. Edmund Burke once said that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. We live in a world today where it seems like evil has triumphed. As a police officer for 40 years, I can tell you that evil exists in our world. Some of you may have lived in countries where evil seems to have triumphed. And it may seem that day as we listen to the news every day. We think about our community and the things that have happened here in our state, in our nation. We think about the mass shootings in Las Vegas, Sutherland Springs, Santa Fe, Texas, and the suffering that those things caused. But in each of those events, good men and women stepped up and said, evil's not going to win here today. In Santa Fe, peace officers talked the suspect into disarming without shooting him. In Sutherland Springs, a neighbor took his own firearm and chased the assailant out of that church where he was killing people. Followed him in a vehicle, letting law enforcement know where he was so he wouldn't escape. In Las Vegas, men and women put themselves in harm's way, and they removed victims from the line of fire and into cover, under cover, into safety. Those things are very encouraging to me, because those people stepped up and said, evil's not going to win here today. When I was chief of police in 2 different cities, I introduced community policing philosophy in each of those cities. And community policing is a philosophy that encourages problem solving and partnerships among law enforcement and the community. And those things are invaluable. You know, when you think about police officers, you think about arrests or citations and things like that. Well, community policing gave them additional tools for their toolbox. You know, there's an old saying, if you only have a hammer in your toolbox, all your problems look like nails. Well, those police officers had other tools in their toolboxes. And wouldn't it be great if the judiciary, if judges all over the United States had an additional tool like Peaceful Solutions in their toolbox? In our prisons today, in our jails, many of our prisoners have been there more than one time, some of them multiples of times. If you give them an opportunity to learn something like Peaceful Solutions, they might not reoffend. And there's a judge down in South Texas that's using that in his program. And I'd like to get his name and phone number, because after January 1st, I intend to give him a call to find out what kind of success he's had. And how he utilizes Peaceful Solutions as a way to prevent people from reoffending. We may not ever be able to stop all the evil things that happen. We may not be able to stop everybody from reoffending. But if we've got that extra tool in our toolbox, if we've got something to fall back on besides putting somebody in prison or fining them, then that's a good thing. I think Peaceful Solutions may be what all people in the judiciary need to look at in terms of helping prevent people from reoffending. Again, I appreciate your time and attention. I'm not going to take any more of your time. It's been a privilege to be here, as it always is. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for this program.
It's always really great to hear from Mr. Scott Niffen. Really always is. We have a group of young video producers, of young people. They come to every Peaceful Solution class, and they put together a video for everybody. Today's just jam-packed full of stuff. They put together a video for everybody about the Peaceful Solution from one of our books, and they've come to every single Peaceful Solution class, and they're practicing it in their lives, doing their best. Sure, we all slip up and make mistakes, but they are trying. And that's how you make forward motion. You do your best and you keep trying, and you keep trying, no matter how many times you make mistakes. So, without any more delay, I'd like to present our video production team and their director. Everybody, please give them a round of applause. Mr. Michael Myers is the director.
How's everybody doing? You having a great conference? Yeah, great. Now these young men worked very hard. They produced the entire video themselves, wrote the script, pulled it right from one of the books, and they worked very hard on it, as well as the puppet show that you saw. So we're going to go ahead and set this up, and when we're done, they're going to come up and they're going to ask some questions, all right? So without further delay, this is the Peaceful Solution Teachers in Training production team. And this video is the one that they made for all of you for today. And at this time, if we can go ahead and play the video.
Ron, I got an idea. I have a pocket knife and we can carve our name into the backboard.
Oh, cool. Oh, that looks like fun. Can I try it?
Howdy, boys. How y'all doing this morning?
All right.
Out for a little run?
Yes, yeah.
I saw you down the road there a piece. Must be all tired out. I mean, I know that's a pretty long track. Nice to have a comfortable place to sit down and rest up a little bit before your next leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what'd you get there? I've never seen a knife like that before. Oh, wow, man. You had this knife long?
No, it's his.
Oh, it's his. You had this knife long? No? How long have you had it?
About 2 weeks.
A couple of weeks? Oh. Mind if I hang on to it for a piece? You must be Jeff. No, that's not your name? Well, you know someone named Jeff? No? You must be Ron. You're not Ron. You know someone named Ron? Wow. There's something I can't quite understand. Most people want to use their own names. You guys using names that you don't even know?
No.
I mean, you're carving these names on this sign here, on this bench.
You didn't carve that.
You didn't carve that. I guess you didn't carve it either, right?
Yeah.
The sad thing is, I sat right there for a while and I watched you carve it. As a matter of fact, I'm watching the letters appear as you're carving away. Well, you did it. Each of you carved. I'm going to assume it's your name. And Jeff. Listen, boys, what you're doing here is wrong. This park bench is not free. As a matter of fact, the city paid a healthy sum of money to put these out here so that people like you who go running around can have a place to rest. Now you're going to have to be held accountable for what you've done here. You know, destruction of park property, destruction of city property. I'm going to need your parents' names and phone numbers so that I can fill out this citation here.
I am not giving nothing, especially my parents' phone number or address.
Right,
I don't care, shut up. You can't have giving this guy anything, you must be stupid.
Headquarters? Yeah, I need backup over here at, this is Agent 613, I need backup over here at bench number 144.
Welcome everyone. I would like to introduce you to the SOYH video production panel. For this production I was the director, Banav Vance was the audio director, Shimon was the assistant director, Barit, Barith, and John were the actors. I hope you pay attention so that you can answer these questions. Question number 1. What would have been the right thing to do? Right there?
In terms of the boys?
Gotcha. Yes.
Okay, for them to tell the truth.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, back there.
Well, they should not have damaged the property to begin with.
Okay. Right over here.
The proper thing for them to do would be to actually admit what they had done wrong and apologize for their actions.
Right. Okay.
Question number 2. What would be the... Question number 2. What could some consequences be, and what could lead to in later in life? Yes, in the green shirt.
He would have got arrested.
Okay. Yes. Anyone else? Yes, in the black shirt, right there.
They will want to juvenile. They will have a juvenile record for life.
Yes. Great answers. Now turn over to the next one that's going to ask the questions.
Question number 3. What character traits did the park ranger show? Anyone? Up here? Daniel?
Patience.
Okay. Come, Benjamin.
He actually asked questions. He got educated. He got the information he needed to make a right decision.
In the blue shirt right there.
He was trying to help.
In the green shirt.
First they were destroying the property that was made by the city.
Okay, right there. No.
He showed himself calm, friendly, and concerned.
Yeah.
The officer was very respectful in his dealing with the children.
All right, now I turn it to Shimon. Hey.
What character traits did Ron show? The white and blue shirt right there in the front. No?
The Parker Ranger was showing righteous.
In the third row. Third.
Negative.
Okay. In the green shirt.
He showed respect. Disrespect.
Okay.
Disrespect. Ron showed disrespect towards the park ranger.
Okay. Great job. I'll turn.
What character traits did Jeff show? Right here, purple shirt.
He showed respect.
And the black shirt over here. The black shirt. In the black shirt right there.
See what is it? Disrespect.
Yeah, right next to him in green shirt.
Well, he showed respect.
Up here.
Well, he showed more respect, and he was trying to make the best of the situation that was already negative.
Last one. All right, I'll turn it over to John Bragg.
Greetings, everyone. You know, while both of these boys had different ways of dealing with the park ranger when he did come. The one was utterly defiant and the other one tried to calm things down. There was one thing that both of them did have in common. They both didn't seem to have any problem with defacing park property to begin with. They both started carving their names onto the park bench. So my question is, what could they have been taught before any of this transpired that would have actually stopped this from occurring to begin with? How about in a blue shirt right over here?
Well, what Barik could have did was he could have showed respect, and he could have not standed up and said all those bad words.
Okay, he could have showed respect and not stood up against the park ranger in the blue plaid.
If that being obedient, if he did be obedient, that'd be great.
Say again?
If he did be obedient, that'd be great.
If he had been obedient, okay. We got another blue plaid over here.
He could have been taught, do not steal.
Could have been taught, do not steal. So this is something that he could have been taught before this all started, right? Okay. How about the gentleman over here?
He could have been taught self-control.
Okay, they could have been taught self-control, which would have lent to them controlling themselves before they even got started on carving on the park bench. How about over here?
They could have been taught honesty.
They could have been taught honesty. Okay, that's a great one. Oh, you don't have to walk very far.
They could have been taught ownership so that they would have known that the park bench belonged to the city.
Okay, they could have been taught ownership so that they would know that the park bench didn't belong to them, it belonged to the city. I think you had your hand up? No, behind you. No.
Is it him?
You didn't have your hand up? Oh, I thought I saw your hand up. Oh, we got another hand way down here. I don't know, just pick one.
It could have been taught self-respect, showing how to care for themselves so they could learn how to care for their other things besides themselves.
Okay, could have been taught respect for other things beside himself. Okay, right here. Yes.
He could have got taught to not be carving the city's property.
Okay, he could have been taught not to carve on city property. How about over here on this side?
He could have been taught the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program and not to carry such a big knife.
Okay, he could have been taught the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, which would have taught him to value other property and not destroy it. Right over here.
They could have thought about their choices before they made them.
Okay, they could have thought about their choices before they made them and the consequences of those choices. Listen, I see we still have a lot of interest and we'd like to give a lot of answers, but we are running kind of short on time. I'd like to thank you all for your answers. They were an excellent, excellent group of answers to this question. If we only start incorporating a peaceful solution into our day-to-day lives and into the schools and so on and so forth, we can really put a stop to incidences like this from ever taking place. So looking forward to another day when we get together, and maybe we'll even have another video like this. Hope to see you all back here real soon.
That was a really wonderful presentation, and thanks for participating once again. There really is quite a bit going on and a lot to try to pack into one day. We also have the prison program that keeps going on, the prison correspondence courses, where the people who have made wrong choices in their life and who are locked up behind bars can still make a change in their life, so that when they are released, they can be a productive citizen of society. We have our prison correspondence director, who is here with us today, and who's going to kind of give us an update and tell us a little bit about what's going on in the prisons. And I'd like to turn it over. Everyone give a round of applause to Katan Alexander.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honored guests, hope everyone's not too sleepy from the turkey meal we had earlier. I'm going to try to keep your attention here. Don't mind, I like to walk around. So our theme is time to unite. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the prisons and what's been taking place in the prisons in regards to the peaceful solution and how it's working to change the lives of both men and women. But also, I'm going to give you a little bit of statistics. If you were here for the spring 2018 conference, we talked a little bit about prisons and the statistics and how the numbers have increased over the years. But I wanted to read a definition to you as we begin this, because I think it's very important in our theme here, and it's the definition of the word unite. And it says, to put together to form a single unit, to cause to adhere. And the last one here is to link by a legal or moral bond. To link by a legal or moral bond. And that's very important, because in the peaceful solution, that word morals, it refers to rules. And in society, we have rules. And of course, if those rules are broken, then you have problems. You have conflicts, which in most cases, some people kind of get off with a tap on the hand, but in other cases, people end up going to jail as a result of them. I want to take you back a little bit here to 1971. 1971. Anybody was around at that time? 1971. All right, we got a few people. All right. 1971. In 1971, President Richard Nixon declared war on drugs. I'll set this right here for a minute there. President Richard Nixon declared war on drugs. He proclaimed, I quote, America's public enemy #1 in the United States is drug abuse. And in order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive. Well, in 1973, after 50 years of stability, the rate of incarceration in the United States began to sustain a period of growth, just continue sustained growth. In fact, in 1972, 161 out of 100,000 Americans were incarcerated. In 2007, 767 of 100,000 Americans were incarcerated. So you can see how huge that rate of growth was. In 1974, just about 3 years later, the U.S. population in both state and federal prisons numbered 229,721. That was both men and women in federal and state prisons. And in 1985, state expenditures on corrections had increased from $6.5 billion spent at that year to $51.9 billion spent in the year 2013, which, of course, it's increased. The statistics now is about $80 billion a year on prisons, which I have a little research here that was done by the Washington University in St. Louis, and they come to find out that it's actually grossly underestimated when you factor in everything that's involved in incarceration, okay? Not just those who are incarcerated and the states who have to pay per person, per inmate, per year, but the ripple effect, as we heard earlier, and how it affects not only those individuals, but their families, the communities that they live in, the economy, and so forth. And in 2018, the U.S. prison population in both state and federal prisons number, as we heard Chris mention earlier, 2.23 million people, both men and women. Now, I won't bore you with all the numbers, but, privately owned prisons have increased over the years. Since 1989, over $35 million has been put towards politicians and lobbyists in Washington, D.C. to push the cause of private prisons. Well, in 1994, the author of The Peaceful Solution and 50 concerned parents and teachers got together, seeing not only the problems with incarceration, but our society as a whole. And they worked at putting something together that can start to change the direction of where we're going. You know why? Because one thing we teach in The Peaceful Solution is where there's determination, there's hope. And where there's hope, there's an opportunity for change. As great Bawa Jane mentioned earlier, you have to have hope. If people lose hope, then they have no direction, no effort, no zeal to move forward and make change in their society. I want to read you an article from this Washington University study here, and it was done from 2016. It says, a new study examining the economic toll of mass incarceration in the United States concludes that the full cost exceeds $1 trillion. $1 trillion is the full cost of incarceration. Now, the operating cost for jails and prisons and detention centers is about $80 billion a year. That's what it costs the government. But to kind of make a long story short, it says the children of incarceration, incarcerated people pay an enormous cost. They are 5 times more likely to go to prison than their peers. They are likely to be stigmatized and suffer long-term emotional and behavioral changes, and they have a greater chance of living in poverty or general instability at home or becoming homeless themselves, which of course all these things puts a burden on tax dollars, taxpayers, right? Now some people say that prisoners are the cause of society's problems. If these people who are in prison weren't doing the things that they're doing to land them in prison, well, we wouldn't have all the problems we have right now. We wouldn't need security systems. We wouldn't need, alarm systems. We need to have all these special codes to get in from one building to another. But really, if you've paid close attention to what the Peaceful Solution presents in primarily education being the key to change the hearts and the minds of all citizens, we would understand that society's problems are the result of prisoners, or I should say are the cause of prisoners, because in some way society has failed to teach people how to make proper decisions. Now, it's not a finger-pointing thing at any one in particular person. We as a whole have failed because these morals have been, they've declined over the last 50 or so years. Let's see here. About 14 years ago, we had a basic inmate program that started to go out to prisons as a kind of a pilot to get an idea of how the Peaceful Solution can be incorporated and get feedback from prisoners as to what these lessons can do for them, how can they help them. About 9 years later, we had a correspondence course that was introduced to the prisons. Now, we deal with over 100 prisons, and we send out thousands of lessons on a monthly basis, and we get a lot of feedback from those who are taking the course. Now, just to give a basic understanding, the course pretty much simplified just breaks down the lessons that are presented in the Peaceful Solution and sends it off to the students. We don't consider them inmates. They're students to us. They have value to us. And we send them off to the students. They read the lessons. They complete the lessons. They answer questions, and they turn those things back in. At the end of the course, they have pretty much the entire curricula of the Peaceful Solution. And as Chris said, in war, in prisons, you know, there's money making to be involved, but this peaceful solution character education program and bringing solutions of change into our society, we're not making one penny. These inmates don't pay one penny to receive this correspondence course, and it's making a huge improvement in their lives. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I know that there's some new people that are here at this conference. I believe it's their first conference, who recently have been paroled out and released from prison. And while they were there, they were taking the peaceful solution. Now, we have a lot of people who have already, but this is something that is continuing to produce positive effects. It's not something that just dies. The students aren't letting it die. They're passing it on to their friends and their cellmates and so forth. I want to read you some testimonials of some students who have written the peaceful solution after taking the course from an extended period of time, and some of them just from a few lessons. Here's one note or letter from a student. It says, "Dear team of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, I'd like to thank you for all the wonderful work. If I had had this Peaceful Solution Character Education 13 years ago, excuse me, I suppose that I would never have been in this place," referring to prison. "I'm learning so much that now I can make positive choices that will aid me in my transition back to society." Well, just to let you know I wanted to let you know how these lessons benefited me. All right, that's one there. And here's another one here. This has been a student since 2015, and he said, "I am writing to say thank you for offering me this knowledge and understanding that I receive from these studies. It has calmed me down within myself very much. The anger I had has subsided a lot. Thank you." And of course, in the Peaceful Solution in the Character Unit, we have 2 chapters that are devoted towards controlling your emotions and controlling anger. And a lot of people who are in prison, they have made choices based on emotions, and as a result, it's landed them in jails and prison and incarceration. And lastly here's a letter from a student in California, Lancaster, California. He says, "The acceptance unit taught me a lot and reinforced many of the positive moral beliefs that I've learned through my life's journey. I really appreciate the teachings in this unit because it showed me how my negative character I once had was destructive to myself, others, and community." Okay, so he's not pointing the fingers, but he's showing that how his choices landed him where he is, but the fact that he didn't have the education beforehand. He says, "Identifying such defects helped me to correct these errors in my life, to do better, and to be a better person. Learning how to accept me for who I am and not be overly concerned with trying to conform or please other people. Also, to accept individuals for who they are. I can focus on being steadfast in my positive character." He says, "Many people will benefit from these lessons because they are practical to life. In other words, they're easy to practice in everyday life. Learning how to develop a healthy relationship with others builds relationships through positive interactions and proper communication, whereas we can live peacefully amongst each other. This uplifts society as a whole." And lastly, he says, "People incarcerated will greatly benefit from these teachings too. What I've learned from many years of incarceration is that there are a lot of followers in a sea of negativity. Being a pillar of change and positive growth, others begin to see something outside the abnormal behavior and begin to have the courage to follow in the path or try something different. Seeing that it is okay to be positive and yourself, thus changing the world. Positive character and moral values are the qualities that society is lacking. The Peaceful Solution Character Education Program encourages just that. I'm going to continue to incorporate these lessons in my life." And that's just a few of the testimonials from some of the prisoners, the students who are incarcerated, who are following the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. And it's just evidence to show that it's never too late to make a change. In any state you are in your life, wherever you are economically, wherever you are education-wise, even morally, you can start to turn your life around. As we teach in the Peaceful Solution, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. The first step, I want to read you something in closing from the Building Moral Excellence Advanced Unit here in Chapter 5 on page 202. And it's under the title, Changing Our Society and Our World. Changing Our Society and Our World. And it reads, society is the collective beliefs, action, and character of every individual. For our society and world to change, each individual must begin valuing, developing, and maintaining a positive character. Valuing, developing, and maintaining a positive character. In this way, everyone will do their part to respect and treat others with concern and compassion. If society changes, our nation will change. And if our nation changes, our world will change. The worst thing you can do is to think that the problem is too large to fix. Remember, the longest journey begins with a single step. So what I ask you today is, let's take this journey together. Let's unite in taking the first step in bringing about change, not only in our society, but in individual parts of society, in prison as well as the individual homes and smaller communities. And we'll see this ripple outward until the whole world is practicing peace. With that, I thank you very much, and I'd like to turn it over to our next speaker, David Knighton.
Thank you, Katan. I'd like to thank Israel Hawkins, the author of The Peaceful Solution, our honored guests and fellow students and teachers of The Peaceful Solution, for allowing me to be here and speak with you today. If you could go ahead and show the first two slides. If you look behind me, there's a city there. It's Little Rock, Arkansas. That's where I'm from. Looks like a pretty nice place, doesn't it? I mean, you know, really scenic, and looks like a pretty clean place. So you go there, and it's really nice. Who would have ever thought what I'm fixing to tell you would be the truth about this place? You know, I always thought it was a relatively safe place to live. I kind of was in my own world, I guess, and oblivious to some of the things going on. Could you go ahead and show the next slide? What I found out along the way about Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'll tell you the story of how I found out, but what I found out was that it is actually one of the top 10 in most dangerous cities to live in the United States, you know, per capita. Now, this is a city of about 200,000 people, approximately. And you see that number 1, that means that there's 1%, or it's safer than 1% of the cities in the United States. That's not a great record. That means it's like at the top of the worst. So if you look at the number of violent crimes there, violent crimes per 1,000 residents is 15.36. Property crimes is 70.11. Per 1,000, and the total is 85.46, which is way off the charts as compared to other cities its size, even larger cities, and even the entire United States. It's way off the charts with that. If you've lived in Little Rock for any length of time, you've either had a car stolen, you've been burglarized, or you've been assaulted, or something has taken place. The murder rate alone, in what I'm fixing to show you, back in 1992, late 80s, 1992, it had gotten up to about 70 per year in Little Rock, a city of only 200,000 people. So it's pretty bad. Okay, let's go ahead and see the next slide. So one day at work, you know, I'm in my own world, you know, and working most of the time, 7 days a week, and all. And I heard some of the men talking about an HBO special about gangs in Little Rock. And I thought, HBO special in Little Rock? About gangs? Come on, man, it's not that bad. And so I kind of listened to what they were saying, and so I checked it out. Gang war in Little Rock. Go ahead and show the next slide, please. You'll see right there, this is the HBO documentary. Not everyone who leaves Little Rock behind leaves it behind. A lot of people end up dead in Little Rock, Arkansas. This was a documentary. It was a very serious documentary. Go ahead and show the next slide, please. This is a picture located very near where we go and teach at Central High School in Little Rock in a local neighborhood. And this is just some of the very young men that are involved in one of the bigger gangs, the Bloods and the Crips, very prevalent in Little Rock, Arkansas. And you'll notice the bandanas that they use. This is prevalent also to show their colors. You know, and in Little Rock it's blue or red. You're one of the two. Go ahead and show the next slide. This is very near Central High School also. You know, interestingly enough, the Central High School where we go and teach the Peaceful Solution is a national park, and it's the only international high school in the United States with students from all over the world. And just right down the street, I mean, this is like a couple blocks away, this is how it is. And again, you know, we've got some gang members all around that. It's a very dangerous place to be, actually. Go ahead and let's take a look at the next slide. Now, if you look at that right there, that's an article from back, I believe it was 1957, that's correct, where we had an altercation. The Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, was a segregated school, meaning only white people were allowed. This was the biggest, nicest high school in the United States at the time. They had just built it, just been open a short period of time, and they weren't about to change the way they were doing things. In fact, the governor, Orville Faubus, called out the National Guard to block the black students from going into this school. Now, I'm just showing you the history of violence in this town just 30 years before this HBO special. A lot of violence. They did not mind beating these people, bringing out the National Guard to keep them from going in the school. When it was found out about, Dwight Eisenhower, the President of the United States, federalized that National Guard unit and sent in the 101st Airborne Division to make sure that these students were able to integrate this school. And that became the Little Rock 9 that actually, you know, integrated that school on that day. And they had to escort them into the school. Go ahead and show the next slide, please. Now, the mob violence that took place for a period of about a week or two there at Central High was unbelievable. I mean, they had to close the streets. There were people all over the place, thousands and thousands of people. Show the next slide, please. This is them being escorted into the school. You can't see near the amount of troops that was there. They lined the streets, blocking traffic and keeping the mob back. There were so many troops there. And so this just shows some of the violence that this town had before the 80s when this documentary came out, and before now when it's reached such a horrible statistic as being in the top 10 most dangerous cities to live in the United States. So they're looking for a way to deal with this. You know, people understand, 50 years later we had the presidents that were in office at that time to come and give speeches. And actually, I think there were at least two former presidents there also. But there was a large, long list of dignitaries, and everybody was committed to bringing peace and never letting this occur again. And shortly after that, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program actually got to go into this school on a daily basis and teach respect. And it was well liked, in fact, so much so that we were invited to a special event they have every year, and we've gone every year since then with everyone from Abilene, the whole missionary team going, and the Peaceful Solution Group, and teaching there at this school. Now, go ahead and show the next slide, please. So this shows where they are crying out for peace, never, not wanting this violence. Next slide, please. And this is in front of Central High, a recent demonstration, complaining about the violence and the murders that are taking place, saying, no more, no more. But all the mobs, all the demonstrations, all of this is not going to make the difference. The only difference that's going to be made is when the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, when morality, when character is taught on a daily basis in every school in the United States and in this world. That's when the difference is going to come. So It's our job to get this message out to them so their suffering can end. And that's what we're here to do, and that's why all of you are here today, and we thank you for being here. And with that, what I'd like to do is turn it back over to the chairman.
We had a really wonderful round of events today. Please give everybody another round of applause, and yourselves a round of applause for coming out. I know sometimes it can be hard to sit through all this stuff, but it is really, really incredible, the work that's going on, and just how much difference such a simple program can make. So before we close out, I would like to thank the House of Yahweh for allowing us to use their auditorium to hold our conference in. And there are displays at the back of the sanctuary. There's displays, fun displays for the children, activities for the children to do. So please go check those out. And also on another topic, there is a film tonight at 5:30 for all those who would like to come and stay. So please come and enjoy the film. So until then, go check out the displays, and you're dismissed at 5. Have a wonderful day, everybody.